How about the duality of nature versus nurture? This is a very thorny issue. A lot of debates have been waged over this. You know, is something nature or is it nurture? Being gay, is that nature or is that nurture? Is it how you were raised or is it in your genetics? Could it be both? Is it possible that the way you're raised affects your genetics and that affects whether you become gay or not? For example, when you are not yet born, but in your mother's belly, maybe something happens to your mother. She gets more testosterone or more stress or more estrogen in her system for whatever reason. Which, of course, you know, that usually comes from environmental reasons. Like maybe your mother is in a war zone or she's abused or whatever happens. And then maybe that triggers something within you because you're now attached part of your mother. Speaking of which, you know, where do you end and your mother begin? Especially when you're inside her belly. See, very tricky. So at that point, you're not even separate from your mother yet. You are your mother, literally. So the environment affects your mother. That, of course, affects how your brain wires and all of this, depending on testosterone, estrogen, and so forth, these various kinds of hormones. Various science and studies have been done on this. You can go research those, and you discover that it matters. It matters whether your mother is in a war zone or she's stressed or she's abused or she's taking drugs or whatever. That affects you to the point where it might make the difference between you being gay or straight or bi or transsexual or whatever. And I'm not saying that's the only cause. I'm just saying it's a factor. So where do you draw these lines between environment and genetics? It's not so simple at all. In fact, this whole notion of a fixed, rigid set of genetics that you just are born with and that you have to now live with for the rest of your life has been completely debunked in the last 50 years of biology. It's complete horseshit. There is no such thing as a rigid genetics. Your genes are constantly expressing themselves in various ways with a very complicated interrelationship between you, the food you eat, your environment, and everything that's going on around you. Literally, my words, the words coming out of my mouth, can enter your ears and change the way that your genetics is expressed. This is called epigenetics. It's the notion that genetics are affected by environment and vice versa. Literally, that's possible. And in fact, if you watch enough of my videos, what's going to happen is that your whole mind is going to rewire from this theory, from this philosophy. Your whole mind will rewire. But what is that? But it's going to also shift your genetics. Literally, your DNA will change from watching Actualized.org. People don't appreciate any of this. And then people become victims and say, oh, well, Leo, I'm just fat. I have ADD. I'm depressed. I suck. My life sucks because of my genetics. It's all my genetics. Of course, genetics are important. I'm not denying genetics. But it's very easy to start to use genetics as a sort of a victim mindset. It's very convenient. The ego loves some idea of some rigid genetics. And you can say, well, my genetics were bad, so I'm bad at math. My genetics are bad, so I'm bad at meditation. I'll never awaken. I'll never become a Buddha because I got shit genetics. See, but this becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's a really dangerous and tricky duality. Genetics and environment. It's not so simple at all.